Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is the Dr. Will Show, and I am your host, Dr. Will. This is my third show today, people. I do this because I love you. Uh, we have Kerry Gallagher back again. How you doing, Kerry?
I'm good. How are you? You have been busy today.
I am. That's why I need someone to sponsor this show. Uh, Keurig.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
it, I love the Keurig. So if they want to. I'll mention it all day. I do it for free anyway, so let me get something. You use some Keurig, some K cups. I'll take that. So uh, today we'll be talking about professional development, and as part of this three-part series, we'll be talking about professional development from the experience of a veteran teacher. And again, we have Kerry Gallagher back on the show. So, Kerry, for those who, for some reason, maybe they're checking out my blog for the first time. If you are, thank you. Uh, will you introduce yourself to the people?
Sure. I am Kerry Gallagher, as Will said. I guess I'm the veteran teacher. I've been, as part of this series, I've been teaching for about 13 years, middle and high school history. I also run our student-driven tech team at my school and have been paperless in my classroom for the past several years. I present often at conferences, love traveling and presenting at conferences, one of my favorite things. And I think that's it, right? I don't know. What else do we need to know?
Well, that's it. Well, let's get
That's
to
it.
it. At this stage of your career,
Mhm.
what does professional development mean to you?
Okay, so for me, professional development is any opportunity where I am learning to deepen my understanding of either, um, well, let's start with that. Learning to deepen understanding, but also gaining perspective. I think those are the two elements that I look for in professional development. If it's labeled professional development and I'm not deepening an understanding or gaining some kind of new perspective, I don't think it's really professional development. I think it can be focused in a lot of different ways. For instance, it could be focused on content, right? So I'm a history teacher. So sometimes I attend professional development that's specific to my content area, like perhaps it's specific to, the role of women in the Civil War or something like that. It could also be specific to teaching strategies, like, using a certain type of technology to make my classroom more efficient, or class management strategies. That could be an area of professional development. And finally, it could be a way of developing my skills as an educator, my skills in, teaching students to write. So, we all teach students to write no matter what area we teach, but perhaps we are developing that skill and changing the process or the steps or something like that. So that's how I define professional development.
Okay, so uh, district level or lead or PD is a reality for most anyone who works in K through 12 public education. And I myself have been called to deliver that sort of PD during days of PLCs. What are your thoughts on district level or district led PD? And is it a model that has come to an end?
So I don't think it's a model that has come to an end completely, but I think there needs to be a shift perhaps in the way it's presented to educators. You need district level PD because you need to make sure that the vision of the district and the direction the district is moving is clearly communicated to everyone in the district at all levels, from the district level administration to the school level administration to classroom teachers to teaching assistants and to the students. And so professional development is needed so that all of the adults involved are moving in the same direction. That being said, the way that message is delivered perhaps needs to be shifted. Rather than running hour, 2 hour long trainings with 100 people in the room and one person up front with a slideshow talking, there could be more creative ways to deliver that. And I think you and I will end up talking about some of those ways as we go on with the conversation. The other reason I still think that district level professional development is important is because as part of, moving forward on that vision, sometimes districts want to prioritize certain skills they want their teachers to have. Maybe the district is going to adopt, they're going to be a Google Apps for Education school or district, and so they need the teachers to have some level of mastery in operating those tools in their classrooms. So in order to communicate the vision and the key skills that everybody in the organization has to have, there does have to be some, district level organized professional development.
Okay, so and this is interesting because at this point I have not had this experience yet, so I can't say I couldn't answer this question for myself. But what has been your most amazing PD experience to date, and what made that experience resonate with you?
Yeah, so I think I talked to you a little bit about this before when you shared the questions with me. I don't think I can clearly identify one thing, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that at this stage of my career, I think at different stages of my career, I would probably cite different experiences. Early when I was a brand new teacher, I would say it was those one-on-one conversations with my mentor, where I was bringing her concerns or she was checking in with me with ideas as I was developing just my day-to-day classroom practice, right? So that was really valuable to me. But more recently, I think the best PD that I've had has been the opportunity to travel to conferences in different parts of the country and gain perspectives of educators depending on what state they're from, what region of the country they're from, what, socioeconomic status the community is, the status of the school. Is it a charter school? Is it a private school? Is it a public school? The different levels that they're teaching at, college, high school, elementary, all the way down. I also have found that because I've been able to travel and go to all these different conferences, I'm not just gaining the perspectives of people based on their geography, but also based on their role. So I find it interesting to talk with technologists in the EdTech industry about how and why they developed a tool that they did, or talk to researchers at the key universities about why they're researching, learning the way they are, and what they think the impact might be on me as an educator and on my students. Talking to administrators who are going to these conferences about what they see as the goal of their district or their school and what influenced them. So the best PD for me has been the opportunity to travel outside of my district and outside of my state to get more of a national perspective on where the direction education is moving in, and the different pressures that are put on people depending on what role they have and where they are.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I like when you talk about that because, earlier my mind, and it's crazy because my mind was stuck in the traditional sense of I sit down and get PD, which I said, well, I haven't had that much of an amazing experience, but ISTE last year was phenomenal, particularly the Bloggers Cafe, in which I got a chance to meet with all these educators from around the country, and some people I knew on Twitter and some people not, and being able to sort of, oh, you're doing this in your classroom, have you thought about this, have you thought about that, or we're doing this, and sharing those examples. The Google Theater was also just off the hook. It was crazy fantastic. But normally, you go to conferences, and that's why I sort of thought of, because you go to conferences and then you go home and then you go, now what did I did I learn something? Like, I just spent 3 days there.
Right, but I think it's the conversations that you have there, but also the relationships that continue or develop because of those conversations after that have really made the difference too. Like, I happen to have met a researcher at a conference I went to this week who I've never met before, and he and I have already communicated a couple of times about how we might build off this, early stage of our relationship to benefit both of us. So it's he's a researcher, I'm a classroom educator. We both have a lot to learn from each other. We did that day, but we can continue that discussion too.
I see, and that's a great segue into this question, because as a connected educator, what are your thoughts on using on social learning, particularly how teachers can take ownership of their professional development using the various social platforms that exist?
Yeah, so I like to think of it as like a process or a continuum. My advice would be to start with a blog. Start with a place where you can put out successes that you can share with people. You can share a philosophy that you're developing as it evolves, and then share the heck out of each thing you post via social media. Use Facebook if you'd like. Definitely use Twitter for sure, and see how people react. See how it starts a conversation about that lesson and why it was good, or about that philosophy and why it's changing. And you'll end up making contact with people who you haven't talked to before to expand the discussion, and maybe changing the conversation among the people you have talked to before. And then if that conversation needs to get more detailed or more personal, you can bring it over to Voxer, right? And you can talk to these people and hear their voice, and get a real sense for their personality and their passion through their voice on Voxer. And then if it gets to a stage where a face-to-face is really necessary because you've clearly developed something that needs more attention, but that face-to-face isn't possible because of distance or timing, then you can go to Google Plus and use a Google Hangout like we are today. So I see it as each of these tools provides a different level of contact and opportunity for learning. It's just about how you use them. And when used all together, they're even more powerful. And this is real personalized professional development when you're using these social networking tools, for sure. It's a lot different than the district level professional development we were talking about before, but it serves a different purpose also. Professional development is not one thing. There is not one that's better than the other. Their purposes are different.
Mm-hmm. So what I want to do is throw this question out there to you. Mm-hmm. You happen to also deliver PD at your school. Mm-hmm. In so doing, what is your process for working with teachers, for delivering PD, and how does your experiences as a veteran teacher influence or inform how you work with teachers?
Yeah, so the way I deliver PD is really informal. It's not like I have a specific title or role, and that's part of my job. It isn't even really part of my job description. But because I have been teaching for a while, and because I kind of have a reputation around my school as someone who's pretty good at implementing or integrating technology in my classroom, and I've put a lot of my lessons and my students' work out there, teachers who I work with will look at it and then come to me either via email or in person and say, I'd like to talk to you about this and how you think I can do it and how it could work for me. So my process is that it's very, very personalized. It's one-on-one. It's, trying to help them fulfill a need or solve a problem in a way that will work for them. I have delivered some more formal sessions at district conferences for sure. For many years in a row. Those are primarily based on, larger questions. Like more recently, I delivered trainings on, how we built our student help desk. I delivered a training on, a collaborative paperless classroom environment so that teachers could come in and see examples of how my classroom runs from my perspective and the student perspective. So the way I deliver it, there are two different ways. It's the more formal one where there's like a larger message or goal, and then there's the real personalized one where people come to you and ask for advice and you help them problem solve so that they can see results in their classroom. And I don't know, do you feel like, because I know you do the same thing, do you feel like there's those two really distinct different types of PD?
Well, yes, it's definitely different when you deliver PD to a larger audience. because the sort of intimacy of the space changes, and you don't have that sort of back and forth. You definitely don't have that back and forth, and you're also trying to. I don't want to say throw everything out there and hope something sticks, but you're trying to hit something, but sort of be broad at the same time, because you definitely know going in that you are talking to teachers who have different skill sets, different abilities, different interests, coming from different subject areas, and they have entirely different expectations. Versus if I'm working, one-on-one with Miss Jones, or I'm working with 5 teachers from the SPED team, we have that time and that space where they can say beforehand or during the session, these are my plans in my classroom. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. These are my outcomes. And we can figure out a plan of how to best reach that with a specific tool or certain strategies. So that definitely, changes depending on the size and scope of your audience and, I guess the mission or what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, one of the things that I have always done in every one of my more formal sessions is it starts with me presenting the reason behind that session. I like to say that I like to start with why, start with the reason that we're here. But then, at least half of the time is the teachers breaking out into small groups, either based on interest or skill, or based on those smaller conversations or smaller opportunities to tinker that they want to have. So usually the small groups are, if you're interested in trying out this tool, go over here, this tool, go over here, and so on. Or if I'm presenting with students or with colleagues, if you're interested in talking to this presenter about this specific topic, then go to that corner of the room. So, once again, there is that introduction and that mission established at the beginning, but it's not stand and deliver for the full hour or for the full 2 hours. It's interactive so that it does get personalized to some extent for everyone there. So everyone feels like they got something out of it that meets their needs based on where they are. Like you said, everybody is going to be at a different level.
Yes. Now, before we get out of here, got to ask you this, because, PD is what I do. It's my life. It's my passion. And I work at the district level, so this is what I'm in contact with CNI, content specialists, admins, as well as teachers, and so I have a different bird's eye view for myself in terms of how everything to me is connected, and I always think about scalability versus. Some people, they talk about things and I go, okay, scalability and all that is always in my mind. But how can school districts make professional development more relevant to the individual needs of teachers, particularly when the district has certain specific goals that they are trying to meet?
That is a really good question. I think that is probably the biggest challenge when it comes to district level professional development. So I would say always start with communicating clearly to everyone in the district why you want them to learn a certain skill, or what is the goal that we're all reaching toward. I think that some districts are really good at communicating that goal, and others think they've communicated that goal, and maybe it hasn't reached everybody quite the way they've planned. So make sure that that is clear. The other thing is, and there's a big movement in this, and I think some districts do it well and some don't, is the PLC model, Professional Learning Community Model. It's meant to mimic the Professional Learning Network model, which is very personalized, but to create a community within a school district of people who meet face-to-face. There's lots of organizations that do a really nice job defining what a PLC is. The National School Reform Group is one that's done a nice job with that, and I've done some trainings with them. But so the next step would be so first explain why and what the goal is, then teach that PLC mindset, because some teachers who have been subject to professional development for years and years and years are used to sitting and just kind of taking it and then going back to their classroom and either ignoring what they just heard or, they're not able to remember everything they just heard because it was an hour of someone talking at them. So you have to teach that PLC mindset where everyone's a participant, everyone's contributing, everyone's taking some risks and putting some things out there. But then once the goal is established and it's clear what a PLC is, you have to provide the educators with some choice as to what their PLC is going to cover. Some choice, as long as those choices fall within everybody walking or reaching toward that end goal or, getting into that vision of the district. So for new teachers, the PLC might be, technology comes to mind because you and I have been talking about it a lot lately, but for new teachers, it might be just gaining familiarity with Google Classroom so that you can effectively integrate it just as other teachers in the district are, if that's the case. For more veteran teachers who are comfortable with that, it might be creating a more collaborative environment in their classroom because they got the tools down and they're trying to kind of transform the student experience. But maybe new teachers aren't really ready to do that yet. So the PLCs have to meet the needs of the individual groups. The PLCs could be based on content. Like let's say there's going to be a shift in math curriculum. Maybe a PLC should be all math teachers. But I think as long as it's within that district vision, if teachers have some choice over what their PLC will cover and exactly what their professional development will encompass, they'll feel more invested and they'll get more out of it. So that's my advice. I'm not sure if it's always possible, but I think if more districts thought of it that way, vision, then PLC model is clear, then providing some teacher choice, I think more of the teachers would get more out of their district level professional development.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much, Kerry, for being a part of this show. And you brought up PLCs, which now I'm going to have to do a show on PLCs.
Okay.
For people, particularly, I saw something with Dr. Robin Jackson in which she talked about PLC, and I'm like, okay, let's get to that, because never before have I heard PLCs put sort of in that framework in which it sounds like a PLN, and the way she explained it was awesome. So you brought it up again, and so we're going to dive into that at some point. So thank you, Kerry, once again for being on the show, and we hope to have you back again.
Oh, I will be back. That's a promise.
Awesome, awesome.
Talk to you soon.
All right, thank you all.